All right, so we're going to talk about 3 things that you need in your job box in case the company doesn't provide that for you. Keegan, one thing that I've always thought about when I'm thinking about the stuff I need in my job box when I'm going to these job sites is a harness. I want to make sure that I've got a harness in because I know there are some companies that provide those and some companies don't. Recently, I heard some welders go to a job and they needed to provide their own harness. They were going to be working, 150, 200 feet up in the air. And they said, we need good quality harnesses. But I also know of other companies that say, if you show up with your harness, they don't care. You're going to wear the company provided harness. So what's your thought?
Well, a lot of times, actually, the companies do provide you with harnesses, but sometimes those harnesses aren't up to par or spec. So if you don't feel comfortable with a harness, you can always just grab another one that you have in your job box that you would feel safe with. So it's always good to have a spare harness with you at all times.
Right. And the same thing goes with your lanyards and everything that goes along with that. You need a positioning lanyard if you're in a basket, or you are going to use one of the yo-yos that are more and more common in today's industry and lighter weight material. How comfortable is the harness? Do you want something with some padding on it? Do you want something with different hooks and options for you to attach your tools to?
And right, there's totally a lot of different options that you can go with for harnesses. So, just make sure you figure out what harness works for you and keep it in the back of your job box just in case that you need it.
Okay. Now, what's another one that we would really, really want in our job box in case that company don't provide that for us?
And that's respirators. Sometimes a majority of your companies don't provide that and they expect you to have your own PP, and that's going to be your smaller companies. A lot of your larger companies are going to have all your respirators and safety things like that on hand. But in the case that they don't, you always have respirator in your job box backed up, ready to go.
Right. I think if you're a welder and you go back to the hotel every night or you go home every night and you're blowing those black boogers out of your nose, then, hey, that stuff is clinging into your lungs. So whether it's your provided respirator that goes under your hood or whether it's a company provided respirator, you have to make sure your lungs are safe because in the long term, it's going to get you down when you get some years in the head.
Right, and there's a lot of companies that they say they really care about your health, but sometimes they really don't. And a lot of times you really got to look out for yourself when you're on the job and on the road. So it's always good to have a respirator on hand ready to go with some filters on it and, just in case they don't provide those things and you're in a confined space or somewhere that you can't breathe properly. I personally know a fitter. Every time he grinds, he puts on a respirator. Now, you don't have to. A lot of times you're outside grinding, the wind's blowing it all out, but he wears a respirator every time he grinds, and that's totally up to him. So it's really, you can, if you don't feel like you're safe or you feel like the air's bad or something, you can pull it out and wear your respirator even though no one else is. So that's the great thing about having your own respirators. You can just pull it out anytime you want and put it on.
Yeah, I know one company, we do some safety training for those folks, and they're going to require you to change your air filter in your respirator every 4 hours. So during an 8-hour shift, you're getting brand new filters. If you work a 12-hour shift, that's 3 sets of filters. So not just you got an old clogged up nasty respirator on, but that you got one that's going to work and function properly.
Right, and that's a good company. So there's companies that'll provide those things for you, and there's companies that really don't provide those things for you. So that's why it's always good to have a backup respirator.
Yeah. And when you're thinking about the respirator too, it's not just about your lungs, it's about the bacteria that could grow in the respirator. So you want to make sure that every day when you're finished up wearing that thing, that you take a wipe and you clean it out inside and you store it properly.
Yes.
Don't just toss that thing in the back of your pickup truck bed and let the flies and everything get in there, because eventually you'll get some respiratory infection.
Right.
That's not caused by what you're breathing.
Right. And then that would be going back to the thing that's supposed to save you is actually hurting you.
Right.
So, cool.
So we've talked about a couple of things. What are your feelings on ear protection? That's something a lot of people don't really think about.
Right. And, the tour rooms are always going to provide ear protection because it's really cheap to buy a big box of them and just give them out to your employees, because over 85 decibels for a period of time, you want to wear earplugs. And something that I've started doing is carrying my own box of earplugs, or when I go to the tour room, I grab a good handful and put it in my job box. Because let's say actually you are working in a boiler or a plant and you are up on the 12th floor and they put your job boxes up there, or you have a toolbox or something, you just leave it up there and you get all the way up there and you forget your earplugs down at the tour room, because a lot of guys, they'll just grab one set, put them in and go to work. Well, I'm very forgetful, so sometimes I'll forget that. And when I get all the way up there, I realize I don't have my earplugs and I don't want to go all the way back down and waste time. So I always keep a set of earplugs in my job box or toolbox. That way I can just pull them out and put them on, because a lot of these places you're working, 99% of the time, you're going to be grinding and welding, lots of noise, and you don't want to affect your hearing, because who wants to get to the end of their life and not be able to hear their grandkids? So it's always good to have backup earplugs in your toolbox or job box.
Yeah, when you're thinking about earplugs, a couple of points that most people don't really consider is the NRL, the noise reduction level. So if you're in a really, really massively loud place and your earplugs only have a 20 noise reduction level, they may not be enough. You may have to go with an earplug and a muff over the top of that. The second thing a lot of people don't consider about on an earplug is, are they clean or are you going to need to replace them? So, the quality of the earplug is going to matter just as much as how you're going to use that earplug.
Well, yeah, same thing as the respirator. Always clean your safety equipment. And earplugs, it's kind of hard to clean them, and they're really fairly cheap. So I just always grab a new pair after lunch, or if they're still pretty good, I'll put them in my pocket, and then a new pair every day.
Right. Now, do you prefer your earplug to be tethered with the little strings around your neck, or do you just like the singles that you roll off me?
I like the singles, just because I've had the string on the back and it catches on everything and gets in my way. So if they got strings on them, I just pull them off, put them in. I like nothing to be interfering with my earplugs and whatnot.
Now, technology is changing, and now there are some of these earplugs that you can touch and it turns them on and off. Have you ever experienced that?
I have not, and that just seems like a lot going on, like when you're welding and stuff, so I just keep it basic and simple. But those sound like a good idea if you don't get any water on them or anything like that.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I haven't personally used those either. Now, the next thing that I see a lot of younger employees trying to get by with, they're using, some earbuds or something like that, or think that's hearing protection, when actually it's a hearing deterrent. It's not hearing protection at all.
Right, and you'll see a lot of welders put in earbuds and stuff and listen to music and grind with it and whatnot and weld with it. And I just don't think it really cancels out the noise as well. And another big thing is, with, I guess, hearing protection and welding is, if you're listening to music, you're not going to be able to hear if there's some emergency noise or crane going off. So I've never really got big into wearing headphones and listening to music. I always had a speaker or something, and then my earplugs in. That way I can hear the speaker and then hear if there's any noise in the plant or something going on. So, yeah.
Well, that's good. So there you have it. 3 things that we think you should have in your job box in case the company doesn't provide that for you. A good respirator, a quality hoist, and a few sets of earplugs.
So hopefully you guys like this video. We'll be putting out more videos on our YouTube channel, so subscribe to that. And also check out our website. We have links, and we also have shop for clothing and a virtual tour. Until next time, see you there.